right, take a listen to something that Steve Lukather said about Van Halen and their work ethic and the conditions in the studio at the time that Van Halen was one of the top bands in the world. And in case you don't know who Steve Lukather is, he's one of the most famous and prolific studio guitarists that ever lived. He played on over 1,500 tracks. He's played with as many diverse bands as Michael Jackson to Boss Skaggs. He was also the central member of Toto, founding member, and the only single continuous member of the band. So I want you to listen to something he said about Van Halen in the studio back during their peak. Let's listen into what he said.
Ever come in session like during Fair Warning when they were tracking here, 82?
I walked in the studio one looking for Ed once, and Roth was sitting there with Don Landy. And I walked in just like the ever jovial self, you know, hey man, hey Don, what's up, where's Ed? And Roth looked at me like I just killed his parents or something.
Really? Like, what are you on his face? What are you doing here?
Disgust. Like, how dare you share the same air? I'm like, got the vibe right away. I'm just looking for Ed, man. And Don goes, no, he's over there, Luke. He's over there. And I got out of there quick, you know.
Nice.
Like I just killed his parents. Alan. I'm friends with all those guys. I just never knew David. You know.
Don Landy and the engineering side as well, complete legend.
I tried to get Landy to work with us. I said, you got to do something with us, Don. I only work with Ed, man.
Oh, is that what he
said?
Go,
come on, what is it with you guys? I asked Alex to play on something once, too. He said, I can only play with my brother, man.
Alright, so what we can take away from this is that there's an extreme clannishness to Van Halen, and the fact that Don Landy said he wouldn't work with anyone other than Ed is really a revelation. The same goes for the fact Alex Van Halen said he would only work with his brother, but that's a little bit more expected. The idea that Don Landy wouldn't do any work outside of Van Halen is a bit of a surprise to me, and I think this is why this interview with Steve Lukather is so important, because it shows how insular Van Halen became over the years and how much they really didn't let any outside influences in. It also sheds a little bit of light on why Alex Van Halen would have reacted so negatively when Eddie decided to do the solo for Michael Jackson's song Beat It. Now, what I want to know from you is, do you think that this kind of insular approach was hurtful to the band over the long term? Do you think that it made it a lot tougher for Van Halen to continue on after they lost David Lee Roth? It's food for thought, at the very least. I actually think that over time, being that ingrown and stuck in a bubble like that can be bad for a band, especially if they're not a band that rigorously tours or rigorously approaches new horizons. In the case of Van Halen, they did have change in the lead vocalist position, which did a lot, along with Eddie's change of focus from guitar to keyboards to keep the band fresh. But I don't know that this necessarily made the band better. The other side of this question is whether or not there's a loss to the rest of the music industry because Don Landy, who's basically Eddie Van Halen's right-hand man, stuck to such a close proximity to Eddie Van Halen and wouldn't play with anyone else. Similarly, it might have been nice to hear Alex play with a few other musicians other than just Van Halen. So here you have an insight into the way that Van Halen really conserved its creative energy under that one single banner. But I don't know if that was for the best. This is what I think, but what really matters is what you think. So if you have an idea about this or any other topic connected to classic or contemporary music, please drop it in the section below and remember to like and subscribe. Also, if you're enjoying the videos, you can click on the thanks button right down there below. Or if you prefer, you can click on the Buy Me a Coffee link and leave a donation at the Buy Me a Coffee site. Finally, if you're in need of a bit of financial assistance, you can click on the Capital One link below. Use their handy one-step process to get yourself a new credit card. Thanks a lot.